you've been dreaming about retiring in North Carolina, you're not alone. Every year, more and more people fall from all over the country and are choosing to start their next chapter right here. And yeah, we've met people from obviously California, New York, Illinois, and even Florida, all finding something very special in this state. And today we're diving into why, not just the surface level reasons you hear online, but the real everyday benefits that make life in North Carolina different. I'm Adriano.
And I'm Katie. And we have helped dozens of families and retirees relocate here. And no matter where they're coming from, we hear the same thing over and over again. This is what home is supposed to feel like. So in this video, we're going to share the biggest pros of retiring in North Carolina, the things our clients love most, and the reasons people keep saying that they wish they'd moved here sooner. And we'll tell you which parts of the state are surprising everyone and the hidden gems that most people overlook. So one of the things that we hear most often that a lot of you guys consider to be a big pro of moving to North Carolina is cost of living. And I can't think of somebody better acquainted with the extremes of cost of living than someone who came from California. So what are your thoughts on that?
So cost of living, and this is a video 2025, and the feeling of leaving California with the overpriced gasoline, the living, the rental market there, even the housing market if you're a homeowner, and taxes, it would drive people working to no end to make ends meet.
And I think the reason why it's such a big deal is it affects your quality of life, because cost of living, it's everything. It's your food. It's getting from A to B. It's the stress that you carry. And I think you can feel the difference.
Yeah, that's definitely what it felt. Like all the pressure and everything in that. Not to mention I don't know if that caused the first heart attack that I had. The first heart attack was the stress from work. And yes, I've had a heart attack. They still don't know why, but that's besides the point. Yeah. That's another reason why I had to move out of California because of all the stress. I found out coming back to North Carolina, and eventually meeting this beautiful woman here. That's basically my partner and my co-host for our channel, or I'm her co-host. Found out the cost of living, it's just so much better in terms of how much I reduced in my overhead.
Yeah.
When I first got here, just to exist.
Yeah.
For my VA disability that was eating up my rental. Yeah. That just the money just to pay rent. Yeah. In California. Now I have money left over, pays the rent, and I can buy food and everything else just by having my VA disability. Yeah. Which covers that. Yeah. So I feel like I said, finding out that better situation overall, better mood that I'm in, how I live my life, the stress has definitely gone down. Everything is good on the heart side. Yeah. So that's a big plus.
And I do think too, as far as yes, your dollar goes further on the day-to-day expenses, but also if you consider some of the things about North Carolina, granted, you may be coming from a state where you have no property taxes. Okay. Well, we do have property taxes. They're modest in comparison to some. Yeah. But, that's where, have these discussions with an agent. We're happy to discuss those with you of, really comparing apples to apples, because it's not just the fact that, yes, you can get more square footage, you can have a nicer car, you can have better quality of life because it's not so expensive to live. But it's also the fact that there are things built into the structures here, even the fact that, we don't have any state taxes on Social Security and things like that. Those are factors that is part of your budget. It's not just your groceries. It's not just what gas costs, not just what a house costs. The structures of North Carolina and how much further your dollar goes here. Yeah,
and going on top of that, here's what I'm gonna recommend. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, out there watching, every case is different because you all come from different states.
Yeah, your context and perspective is different.
We weren't going to put up a bunch of statistics and numbers on here because it's not going to match with where you're coming from. If you want some more in-depth, you got to reach out to us. Give us a call. Let us know. We'll be more than happy to go over every one of these scenarios with you because you're all different places, different cases. Once you reach out to us, we can go in detail of, by the numbers of where you're at. And then you can see the savings and everything from where you're at compared to us. Yeah. Because I'm not going to put up here a bunch of statistics.
Yeah, it all has to do with where you're coming from. And, just to kind of put in perspective, this actually happened. We had a couple that they were retiring and they're moving from Florida. They had asked us about property taxes. And I always send over, things like that, so they can have information on the home they're looking at and what the taxes would be. And she's like, oh, is that monthly? And I said, no, that's for the year.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, okay, well, that's nice, you know. So just the fact that there was such a disparity between the expectations on what you pay in property taxes, for me, it was perspective. Having been born and raised here and being used to what I'm used to, that blew my mind. Because I just thought, I mean, even when we go out to California, visit family, and I see how much gas is out there. And I'm like, no wonder everybody's stressed out.
And they're going to get taxed again for more on the gas at some point.
No wonder everybody's in a hurry, because
probably why I had a hard
it's
time.
a rat race. Yeah. So I do feel like cost of living has to be our first point, because it's tied to everything else. Because to me, cost of living affects your quality of living and the amount of pressure you have in the day-to-day and enjoying your life and not being enslaved to making that, you know, that level of income required just to exist. I mean, that's not even doing what you enjoy doing or
right.
traveling. It's just to make ends meet. That's not good for anybody. So that's why we wanted to start with this, because cost of living is one of the biggest pros of why people do end up in North Carolina. So number 2 on our list is going to be healthcare access, because a lot of folks that are moving here, a lot of you that have reached out, are in that retirement stage of life. And I think for any stage of life, healthcare matters. It doesn't matter. You want to be close to where you can get good medical care. But especially for the fact that the majority of you folks that have reached out, you're retiring. And that should be part of the conversation, especially if you need specialty care of certain kinds. And North Carolina has a lot of access to that. Now, your experience with having heart conditions, which we've shared a little bit about on the channel, and being somebody who does go to the VA, you're familiar with where those are at. What's your thoughts on comparing, having lived in a different state, what is it like in North Carolina when you think about healthcare access?
Okay, so let's go with the VA, because I'm very familiar with the VA system. Coming from California to North Carolina, I was feeling like, man, that's going to be a big change. Going to a whole other state. I don't know how their healthcare system is going to be, but then I researched, like I said, feeling and felt in the moment of the transfer and moving out here. It was a little overwhelming, because I got to make sure that they have someone that's going to be good.
Yeah, that's a lot to entrust somebody to take your medical records and make sure that...
And it gets transferred, because we all know how the VA is. Any veteran knows how the VA system works. They're slow, or they lose something in translation.
You have to advocate a little harder to get things
done.
But
let me just tell you what I found out about moving, to make this super easy.
Yeah.
I moved out here. They transferred. I went to the VA clinic out in Hickory, where we're located. In Hickory, there's a small VA clinic. And then finding out that when I researched about Asheville VA, the big hospital, which you're going to most likely, if you move out anywhere in the Charlotte area or even to Hickory, Asheville's got the second, at the time of when I was researching a couple years ago, second across the nation, best VA hospital across the board.
It's huge. It's a beautiful campus.
So that made me feel really good that I was making the right choice. And then, like I said, finding out they were one of the top. Great. So I called them. It was a lot different in terms of, it was seamless. They helped me out. They outpatient me for my cardiology, because I didn't want to drive to Asheville. Asheville's 2 hours from here. So I just said, can you assign me a heart specialist out of the VA?
Yeah.
And they sure did. And Hickory, we're located. We have Fry Healthcare. What they're known for is their heart specialists. Mm-hmm. So I haven't had any issues on the transfer out here. Like I said, that's what I know on the VA side.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been seeing. But on the specialist side, like for anybody else that's not going through the VA, what you're going to find out coming out here, that where we're at into Charlotte, which is we're about a 40-mile radius from Charlotte, there's great hospitals. And I know there's a lot of folks that go out to
like
Winston-Salem, and then go to the Raleigh, Research Triangle.
So some of the major hospitals in North Carolina, and the one that we look at as being sort of, it's a research hospital. It's in the what we call the Research Triangle of North Carolina, which is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center is a enormous, if you're local, they do more advanced, more specialty work. If there's a procedure that somebody needs that's not offered at a hospital, say in Charlotte or Hickory, they're usually taking them over to Baptist. And that's just, and not being a medical specialist, I'm probably butchering the context of all of this, but being somebody who has lived and grown up here, that's where a lot of folks will go that from Hickory, and we're kind of in the Piedmont here, it's like an hour and a half east, right? So you do have good private medical options. Where we're at now, we have Fry Regional Medical Center, which, as he had pointed out, is a major heart health center. But really, regardless of what type of medical care that you need, or even if you just want to make sure that you have really good responsive emergency medical services, there's not really a bad area of North Carolina.
No,
I would just say be mindful of like very rural.
Especially if you're moving to the Raleigh area, the Raleigh-Durham area, you're covered.
Yeah,
because they have, and what we've seen, we've had people tell us, acquaintances that mentioned, like for cancer specialists, like big specialties, a lot of folks go out to the Raleigh-Durham area.
Charlotte has a huge medical community as well. And keep in mind too, like if you know that you're coming into North Carolina, you have a specific need or a specific specialty medical situation where you're like, I'm going to need infusions of this kind on this rotation. This is what I need, or this is a treatment that I need, or this is a specialist. Be mindful of that and ask questions and align yourself, geographically where it's doable, but you've got good options everywhere. So you definitely will get what you need here. And, knowing your specific circumstances and what you're looking for, just reach out. We're happy to help kind of guide and let you know what resources are available and make introductions to different specialty doctors and care in different areas. So North Carolina definitely checks the box on
it does
medical care. Okay, so having grown up in North Carolina, this is probably my favorite pro is the variety of lifestyles, because I think one thing that makes us very unique is the fact that in one state, because of the varying terrains and even like elevation, the fact that we have mountains, coastline, Piedmont, we get all 4 seasons and we get lots of different opportunities to enjoy those seasons in different ways. Our mountains are so gorgeous in the fall. That's my favorite time of year. And I like that you can take a short drive up the mountains and feel like you're in an entirely different place. And I'm talking like an hour drive, guys, where you gain elevation to where your ears are popping. Like, when you're a kid and you go up the mountain and your ears start popping. And then I like the fact that you can go east and you can be on the coast. And that's pretty cool. I think that's something that's really different. And I like that it makes the state versatile to appeal to different stages of your life. If you're coming in and you've got kids and you want to go on summer break over to the beach, if you are a couple that's wanting like a date night out, you can go to like a downtown area. If you're wanting to, because there's some city life in North Carolina.
No, there absolutely is.
Charlotte, Raleigh, there's plenty of that.
Yeah.
But if you want to have like an escape and go to a winery up in the mountains, it's here too. So it's like all within a day's drive. I think that's one of the biggest pros of our state.
There is something to do for everybody. Mm-hmm. So I left the city feeling depressed and feeling,
it's a lot of
the traffic
out there in
the feeling of your world revolves around traffic to get wherever you need to know. And I felt like I was always trapped to the freeways and to my car and to times because that's just how it works.
Yeah.
Finding out, moving out here, it's not
your lifestyle is just based around traffic.
Yeah.
And how long it takes to get somewhere.
Yeah. She experienced that when I took her for the first time.
Yeah.
And then finding out, moving out here, here's what you're going to find out. That if you're coming from the big cities with all the traffic, that it's not that bad here. She mentioned Charlotte had traffic. I laughed. It was laughable for me.
Traffic.
Traffic looks way different for me.
Yeah.
And also finding out that I can get in the car if I have to be somewhere. Oh, she said, that's an hour drive to get there. So I don't mind the drive. I come from LA where I was in an hour for only 8 miles and you're in the car for an hour.
Yeah,
now 40 miles is the hour-ish.
Yeah.
I haven't been back to Raleigh really in a while. Like experiencing the traffic, but I still looking at everything, it's still not bad. We've gone a couple times. I wasn't in the rush hour.
Yeah, it's more like a
But if you've been out to Raleigh recently, let us know in the comments if the traffic is comparable to anywhere like Los Angeles or even Charlotte. If you've been out to both.
The fact that this state offers such a variety of lifestyles to where you can have your city fix, you can feel like you have your mountain cabin, you can live on the coast and have mild winters where they don't really get a lot of snow on the coast here. Very rarely will they get a little dusting.
You can have everything here. You can live anywhere in the state. Not like some
and
places.
get to the lifestyle you want.
Places out west that people, they obviously look at, let's use example, California. California is what it is. And the more east you go, it becomes more desert climate. A lot of people don't live in the middle. Some people do, but a lot of prefer not to live in the desert. So there's some parts of the state that are, I would say it's uninhabitable. Here in North Carolina, you can inhabit pretty much every part of the state somewhere and live and be you're not so far from the city, or you want to be closer to the mountains, whatever. It's got it all.
Yeah.
That's been my experience, what I found out moving here and living here. And you guys might think the same way. If you haven't been here, it's something that you probably experienced too. Like, so let us know in the comments if we're wrong on that.
And I will point out too, I feel like there's really no better perspective than, and we've all been there, you probably can relate to this, where you're in a plane and it's starting to land, you look out the window and you're like, okay, let's get our bearings of what we can expect here. So the contrast, and this is not to get too in the weeds on comparing two specific states, but in our case, that's our context. Looking at California when we're about to land and seeing what looks like ants and
Legos.
Like Legos. It was like a grid of endless homes and houses and lanes and cars, but the cars weren't moving very fast, and that was concerning to me. And then by comparison, whenever we come to land in North Carolina, and again, something I take for granted because I grew up here, and something that he observes out the window every time we land back at the Charlotte Douglas International Airport, he'll say, look how green it is. And I'm like, that's true. Everything's so lush. And it's most noticeable
spring,
from the
summer.
Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves spring and summer. I love fall and winter. It checks the box no matter what you're looking for. You want a little snow? Stay further west. You want to be in a coastal town? Go east. You want a big city life? Stay in Charlotte or Raleigh. You want kind of small town charm?
Too.
All the amenities? Yeah, Asheville's grown a lot. Very artsy, eclectic. Whole different vibe up there. So North Carolina has it all, and that's why we wanted to add that to the list of pros. So this kind of builds on our last point, because we had talked about all the different lifestyles, and so much of the lifestyles and lifestyle activities and things you can do in North Carolina are based on the fact that we have 4 distinct seasons. And again, this is probably one of my favorite pros because I really love the fall. And if you've never been to North Carolina in the fall, like, you're missing out. People come from all over the country to ride the Blue Ridge Parkway. But I love fall because it's sort of heralding in all the special things that are coming up with cozy family time and soups and fall leaves and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the things we look forward to. Then we have a brief, mild winter, in my opinion. Granted, if you're coming from Florida, you might feel cold in our winter. If you're coming from New York, you're going to laugh at our winter. So it's all about your perspective. But for us, winter is chilly, but not like sub-zero temperatures, occasional snow, and we get to play for a day or two, and school's out, and we buy milk and bread and all the things that us North Carolinians do, and then it melts and we're back to life. And I like that. And then come spring, everything's green again. It's Easter.
Right around her birthday.
Yeah, right around my birthday is spring, and it's like everything comes to life again. So from my perspective, having grown up here, that's the natural cadence of a year in North Carolina. And that's one of the things that I think had to make the list of pros. Now, being you're from California and being that you guys had perfect weather all year long.
Yeah. She knows.
He thinks that's better. If you like a little change, you might be on my side. Comment below if you love North Carolina in the fall.
We know there's a lot of folks out there, and you can agree with this, that some of you look for the 4 seasons. And I'm going to just go through it real quick. Winter, my experience, obviously coming from California, it's a little colder. It happens. But we're out west. We're closer to the mountains, so it's going to be a little bit cooler. When I was at Camp Lejeune, it was still
But we're
cold.
talking like low 30s at our cold days.
Yeah, like, okay, snow, it doesn't happen very often. Even we're at the foothills though.
Yeah.
The mountains is different.
They
but
get more snow.
They
on
get
the
more
west
snow.
side
The
of North
foothills
Carolina.
and by the coast, I didn't
Minimal.
experience. It's very minimal. And when it did drop last year, the snow was on the ground for maybe 3 days and it was gone.
Yeah.
And that was it. And frost, that you have to scrape the frost off your windows, wasn't used to doing that.
If you don't have a garage. Yeah,
If you don't have
your
a
car parked in
garage.
a garage, sometimes it gets a little glazy in the
And then you
mornings.
have to scrape it off. I didn't have to do that in California, so that was new. So make sure you wear your gloves, scrape it off, and then the ice. Be careful driving out because some of the roads could be icy. They do have signs out, this is icy roads, and just be mindful when you're driving. Again,
And
I
that's
can
in like
speak.
January, February.
January,
like the coldest
February.
parts of the year.
And then what do you say? The
Occasionally.
last cold snap is right around March. Cold snap, and you
And
might
then
get one.
Spring comes.
And then now you start seeing all the little buds in the winter. Every tree you start seeing all these little burgundy
Little
buds
fuzzies.
and fuzzies
Yeah.
all in the trees.
Yeah.
And you'll start also noticing some of the trees that just start budding flowers. And then you start noticing right around March.
Yeah.
And these little tulips start coming out of the ground. Now we transition into spring. Everything turns green. Lots of rain. Beautiful time of being in the state. In my opinion, is one of the most beautiful times to be in this state because everything's starting to bud. Purple flowers, pink, white.
A lot of color.
Just looking out
and
color.
spring is before the humidity arrives. Like I think
Correct.
that's kind of that transition that some people are like, oh, summer.
So
is
lots
a little
of
bit
color
humid.
equals a lot of pollen. So then you'll notice a lot of pollen will now start filling up cars
True.
and around your porches, and you got
Yeah.
to blow it off. So that's your spring load, and into the summer, then the humidity starts to pick up. Then you have these seasonal like summer storms right about 5 o'clock, 4 or 5 o'clock. You just get a dump of showers coming across. It's a beautiful day, and then the clouds roll in, and then you just get these hard rains.
And I feel like you folks who are watching this, if you're from Florida, you guys have it way worse than us.
Oh, we went to Universal.
Yeah, when
It
we've
was the
gone to
same
Orlando with
thing.
the kids, every afternoon
It was just this
rain.
like these winds.
Yeah.
Kind of. We have kind of something
Like
similar.
clockwork.
It gets really windy,
So
and
I
then
don't think that's
it's
unique
rough.
to North Carolina. Like we
No, I
have
think
our
it's the
summer
whole
afternoon
Atlantic.
storms. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
it
even to the
passes
coast.
by and then it's gone, which is kind of the same for the Floridians. So
Yeah.
maybe it's like an East Coast thing.
Yeah, this past summer was a little wet. I'm used to summer being summer and not rain. If you're a beach goer or you're on the water on the lake, obviously you know when these happen, it creates these pretty torrential downpours and lightning. So you got to stop what you're doing and you got to get on out of the water till lightning passes. Then you go back into your stuff. And then come fall. Fall, folks, is the best part, in my opinion, in the entire year when you're living here. The weather, the humidity drops. Now you're talking about 85 degrees, no humidity.
70 to 85.
85,
cool,
80.
No humidity.
Perfect weather.
Crisp air.
And I can compare that. And I tell her, the fall feels like California all year round. This is my favorite from September, right into September, October,
early November.
And then
it starts to get a little more of a chill in the air come November.
But the leaves are starting to change. The weather's perfect to be out doing stuff. It is my favorite time of year. Not just because she said it. I give her a hard time about this.
He always whines when it starts to get
because
like
I always know
bit
what
chilly.
happens. I don't like winter. And anywhere. Winter, then I know fall leads into winter, so it kind of gets me a little seasonal blues. But other than that, that's my take. And that's what I found out moving out here. Everything is seasonal out here.
Yeah.
And that means activities and everything else.
There's even a schedule that goes out, like the leaf peak calendar of, okay, if you live in the foothills of North Carolina and you want to see peak leaf season, I mean, they've got it down to a science of what weekend you need to drive up the mountain and go look at the leaves. And let me tell you, when you just talked about traffic, when everybody wants to be there at the same time to see the leaves, you actually do end up with quite a little line to get up the mountains and see all the leaves.
Here's the other thing too. Here's a last note. This place, the weather, it's like bipolar.
No, it's not.
It's bipolar. Okay, take this for what it's worth. It's bipolar. Because sometimes it's a beautiful day, and then all of a sudden, everything flips on a dime, and it's like this storm. You don't even see these clouds. I don't even know where they come from. It's not a cloud in the sky, and it's like it switches on a dime, and then you just get poured on it. I have seen this. There was a time in the fall that up the mountain it became so cold that there was snow in the mountain, fall leaves coming down the mountain, and it was like 80 degrees.
Well, because we have quite a bit of elevation change. So when you look at North Carolina on a map, and we've done videos about this before, far west, mountains. Go a little further east, foothills. That's where we live. I think the fact that the climates do vary, so you can enjoy all different temperatures and within a modest spectrum. It's not so extreme. That's one thing I would want. When you say bipolar, it makes it sound like freezing or hot. I would say that yes, it's dynamic. It's not bipolar, it's dynamic.
It's bipolar.
So let's just be clear about that. So anyway, we have a little disagreement on this one. Yeah, climate and seasons, it is a pro, not a con. So I'm going to keep it positive and we're going to keep moving. Okay, so a lot of you folks, as you're moving into a new state, I feel like knowing that there is a community to receive you is very important, because if you're like many who moved from a different state, that is the natural first thought, is how am I going to be received? What is it going to be like? What's it going to feel like? How are people going to respond to me? I don't sound like them. I may not look like them. I come from a different background. So community is everything. And I do want to preface this entire segment by saying North Carolina is made up of so many communities. And so I really think that knowing what your lifestyle is, what you want life to look like, the pace, the rhythm of your life, what stage of life you're in, that should directly affect where you land here. Like, I think that goes without saying. But I do think, and I want to know if you agree, because you've experienced that as a newcomer. I've experienced this as somebody who was born and raised here. I feel that it has a strong sense of community. Coming from somewhere else, is that how you felt when you got here? What did that feel like for you?
Coming back out here, again, I was in the Marine Corps. It wasn't such a big deal because I was doing a whole different job. I wasn't really tuned into what was going on around the towns because I was on base. Now, coming out here, feeling is, will I be accepted? I'm a guy from California. Some places out there, some states don't really want people from California. That's when coming out here, I didn't say where I was really from. I didn't really talk about it because I was feeling at the time was no one really wants us around.
Like, there's always some people that are like, oh, keep your politics over there. Like, people get weird about some things. Yeah. But overall, I've never felt like it was like, stay out. Like, it's always the ones that feel that way that are the most vocal, but that's not representative of the majority. What
I found out is moving, and this is where the Southern hospitality comes into play. I found out people are super, super nice, which was kind of odd at first. It kind of took me off guard because I was always in a place that, what's your angle? Like, you're nice, like, what do you want? Versus the genuinely nice and accepting. So when you come out here, there's always stuff going on in communities. If you are moving out here and faith and church is important to you, there's going to be lots of places and lots of organizations and church groups that will absolutely take you in.
Yeah, we are in the Bible Belt. That's a pretty prominent thing here.
Prominent thing. So they live their life that way. And I feel like that is part of the culture here. That you come in and you are accepted and you come on in and you contribute to society here and everybody's really nice. You move and people wave at you.
Yeah, people wave here.
The community, everybody waves. Everybody, which was strange. Everybody's nice. Everybody cares about others and everybody cares about their neighbors. So if that's important to you, that's something that you want to look at moving out to and I would say probably the rural parts of the state.
Yeah.
Because the city, I haven't really been in and out of the city as much. We are actually going more into Charlotte. In my experience, it's still there. People are accommodating.
Yeah.
People,
a little faster pace.
A little faster, but when you're going to restaurants and just to go to businesses, they treat you the same way.
Right.
But it's just a little faster pace.
Yeah. And I think probably the reason for that is a lot of transplants to North Carolina come from out of state.
Yeah.
If they're moving for a job or something like that, it might be in Charlotte. There's a ton of banking jobs out there. It may be in Raleigh. There's a ton of medical jobs out there. There's just different little pockets of the state that tend to attract people that are relocating from here. So it's become this melting pot. So the culture of North Carolina kind of just blends more seamlessly into all the others, and it really does melt together.
Yeah. And here's something that we've noticed that's happened. It can happen to you if you're watching our video. This can happen. You can get a job out in Charlotte, but you'll commute. Mm-hmm. You may be coming from LA. You might be coming from New York with commuting's no problem. That traffic, and you've dealt with those elements that you might live somewhere a little bit out of the city, like where we're at, Hickory, which takes you about 45 minutes to an hour to get, depending on what part of Charlotte, that you live in the rural part of in the state, a different city that's not in the, per se, big city. And you'll commute because we have highways that'll get you there relatively quickly.
Yeah.
Because you want the lifestyle of living somewhere, the family and community is important, but you may just work in Charlotte.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that do that.
And there's some that go to Winston-Salem that drive from here. Off the 40, they'll go to Winston-Salem, drive an hour.
You can get east to west on 40.
Hour and 25, hour and 30 minutes just because my community is important to me and that's my personal life at home. But I'll go work where I need to go work and handle business. And then I'm going to come back and get away from that because there's folks that want that. They've lived that life already.
Yeah.
And if you're like that, then this is something that you may want to explore. Where we live now, she asked me, are you okay with this? I said, sweetheart, I came from, my neighbor was an arm's length away.
Yeah.
I'd hear sirens, I'd hear cars, ambulances in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Running around, people peeling out on the streets, racing. I heard it all. And then now we go somewhere, now I don't hear that anymore. And to me, after everything that's happened in my life, this is something that I found it was very rewarding in the whole entire process, the move.
Yeah, I could
if it
see
was
that.
God's way of saying, we need to get you out of there.
Like slow down. Like
slow
just
it down
listen.
because they were
Yeah.
Here's a hint, buddy. Here's a big hint, right?
2 hearts.
Here's a hint. Not one, but 2, by the way.
Yeah.
And then move out here. So that's my take.
I kind of separate this in my mind. There are like Southern etiquettes, and we'll kind of go over a few of them because I kind of take it for granted. Like there's certain things that are like ingrained in me. And then there's also more of social interactions on how people treat each other here. And I think that's more based off of values and less about etiquette, if that makes any sense. For example, he knows this. If somebody comes to our home, they will be offered sweet tea every time. Tea.
I still haven't had it.
He doesn't drink
I don't
sweet
drink
tea.
it because
The conversion is not complete.
No.
It's
It's really because of the sugar. She says I use Splenda.
I use Splenda.
But most folks in most restaurants they use sugar unless maybe you ask for it.
Yeah.
I just don't want it because of obvious
I get
health
that.
reasons.
I get
I'm not
that.
even going to touch the sugar.
So there are Southern etiquettes. There's things like if you have a neighbor that moves in nearby, you would traditionally bring them something, bring them a fern, bake them cookies, go introduce yourself. Because the mindset being you were being neighborly. Like there may be something that person would need. You may need something from them. Like that's community. Because I think some of that is lost in faster paced communities. People have really celebrated self-reliance, which is not a bad thing. But I think when it gets down to it, people do truly crave human connection.
Yeah.
And that's community. Ultimately, it's based in values and the respect for others and the sense that we are stronger together as a community and that we do feel safer when we know our neighbor. I like knowing that, if I live in a neighborhood where my kid's playing in my driveway, I'm glad that I know who lives there, that, we know each other's names. If you need a cup of sugar, call me. I've got it,
It actually happened the other day. This is how communities are built. And we're not next to a lot of other homes where we're at. So our daughter decides to go out in the field and drive around the 4-wheeler. And then the 4-wheeler kind of breaks down. It blew a belt. The neighbor was watching through her window. Apparently she was doing her laps. Then the
neighbors saw that there was a 4-wheeler and no child in it.
Yeah, but our daughter calls me to say, hey, this happened.
So we knew she was okay.
We knew she was all right.
Yeah.
She called me and I said, all right, just walk back to the house.
Yeah.
For the other side, the neighbors saw now the 4-wheeler because it was close to the road. The kid was gone. Calls her mom because she's good friends with her mom.
Yeah.
Calls her mother saying, hey, I think she's gone. I think someone grabbed her.
Is she okay?
Is she okay? And then,
And of course, my mother panics.
They
drive out there ready to take care of something.
Get in the truck.
Yeah.
Her father and her mom get in the truck. They grab the gun. Not messing around, thinking she was just taken. But and then they saw her on the road back.
She was safe.
Safe.
But the fact that quickly. The neighbor was like, hey, something seems off here.
We didn't even know
your kid's always riding around in the field.
The fact that we didn't even know that she watches the kids going around, that's kind of a sense of...
And this is the same neighbor that bakes a pumpkin roll every year. And
and we don't have very much...
I grew up playing with her kids. Like, it's like, that's the community.
We really don't talk to her very often.
Yeah.
Her mom talks to her a lot, but we don't. But the fact that she knew that her children ran around that field...
It's like an assumed community watch. It's like, that's what you have.
That was, to me, was like, wow.
In communities in North Carolina, when people slow down enough to notice. I guess that's the best way to put it.
There's other places in the country that are the same.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is the experience coming to where we're at, where rural parts of North Carolina, this is the experience.
Yeah.
Other states have the same experience, and they have great neighbors. They have great communities.
But I will say this. You're not right on top of your neighbor in some areas, and I like that people aren't always right on your property. People respect each other's space out here. It's not offensive to have a fence. I've had people ask that, if I put up a fence, is it going to offend? I was like, no. We got a dog, keep the dog in the fence, not a big deal. I don't want that to sound like people meddle. I just think it's us emphasizing that what you find here, and the reason why it made a pro on our list, is you find connection, you find community, and I think deep down that leads to a better quality of life. So that had to make the list because for a lot of folks, moving into a new community, they want to know, what does it feel like there? How will I be received? What is life going to feel like in my day-to-day interactions? And in North Carolina, we think that you will find a sense of community and belonging. So naturally, as the last point on our list for pros, I think this kind of summarizes all of this in a way, because all the things that we've mentioned contribute to what makes this state conducive to a good quality of life. So the big pro and the conclusion of this being, the big picture is that when you live in a state where you have all of these features, you have this community, you have good weather and 4 seasons and things to do and people with values that, want to share in the day-to-day life with you, I think and cost of living, it's not so expensive to live, I think that contributes to a better quality of life.
Yeah, I'm going to summarize it basically. In my experience moving out here, what I felt before in the hustle and bustle of LA, constant grind and the constant freeways, and that lifestyle in the big city, coming out and slowing it down, and you guys can relate for the ones that are looking for this, coming out and building a sense of community, having more of a life back. Mm-hmm. And I found out that
there's a balance.
There's
right?
more of a balance. It's not so hard on the body. I have more time for myself to do, be mindful of my mind, body, and soul. Exercising, going to church, doing activities with the kids, having more time, her and I running our business and doing our YouTube channel for you guys.
It's fulfilling. It feels like there's purpose.
Yeah.
And there's peace. I think anytime that life gets out of balance, you can have good things, but if it's out of balance, you can be very successful in your career, but if that's all it's about, you're out of balance. That's not a quality of life. Or if you're making tons of money, but you're not feeling connected to your family, or you're neglecting your spiritual health, your physical health. Well, what's a lot of money whenever you don't enjoy your life?
Yeah.
So I think balance is everything, and I do feel like this is a place that contributes to supporting that balance, because that balance is celebrated and it's accessible because you can actually afford to exist and not feel like you're enslaved to the mighty dollar bill. It's not like you're trying to make ends meet, and I think that's part of it. Well,
keep in mind the city is always a little bit more expensive than the rural areas outside of the city. But for us getting there, like I said, for me to drive there on a 1 day or 2 out of the week, mm-hmm. to spend a couple hours, get your little fix in, get your little stores that you don't have in your one smaller town or city. You go out there, you get it, and you come on back, and you get away from it. I like that. I like to be able to kind of turn it on and turn it off when you want, right? So in North Carolina encompasses everybody. If you're a veteran moving out and you're living in a different part of the country and you're looking to think about moving to North Carolina, I would highly suggest it. Because your VA, if you have a VA disability or retirement with mm-hmm. disability or both or just one or the other, you may want to look at cost of living and you reach out to us because we can go over all of these different scenarios. But besides that, coming out here and just getting your house on 10 acres, mm-hmm. 20 acres, it's out there. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to live in the city.
Afford,
if you're a young family, you're young, and then here to say it's got everything. If you're a family and you got a job in Raleigh, job in Winston-Salem, Charlotte, Asheville, and you're in the city and you got to be there and you need to live near, be close to work, I mean, you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do that.
And I also think quality of life, you also think about longevity of life. And what we hear a lot from folks that are moving out here who sometimes are retiring and they're saying, you know what, I still like to do things. I have a lot of life left to live. I'm done with my career. Praise the Lord. And I'm ready to enjoy life.
For all our retirees that we have contacting us every day.
They're busy and they do stuff. Oh my gosh. Actually, they're a lot of fun. We've got to hang out with a lot of folks who are
they do stuff.
And I feel like when you think about quality of life and you think about enjoying life to the fullest for as long as possible, well, that has a lot to do with where you're at and who you're with. And so being able to be in a state or in a community where you go hiking, you go boating, and you go mountain biking, and you stay active. I feel like that's what has made so many of these folks that we've met, like, they're actually a lot of fun. They're like very active and they're doing things, and
they want to keep moving.
They just keep moving.
This is a state that you can keep moving and keep doing things.
Yes,
and
like you
around.
don't get bored.
Yeah.
There's some good scenery here. There's a lot to do. And so I do think that like kind of all encompasses quality of life, and that's why we wanted to finish with that being the big pro, because that's probably what you're seeking. Is life's been good. You've worked really hard. You've done your thing. And it sounds like there's about to be a change in turning the page. And maybe you're looking to make a move. And
you want to live by the lake. You want to live in the mountains. You want to live by the beach. We have...
Yeah, it's like no matter what fill in the blank, it is here. And that's kind of cool. And I think that's why it does create a really good quality of life here. I think that had to make the top of our list as our last pro, is that it really does affect your quality of life, and it can be a really smart move for you and your family. So if you guys enjoyed hearing about all the pros of North Carolina, don't worry, we're not going to leave you hanging with just the good stuff. We're going to bring a major dose of reality, and we're going to mention all of the cons that we can think of next week. So be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that next week when that video drops, you'll be the first to hear the flip side of this, where we'll share the cons of moving to North Carolina.
Yeah, and don't forget, also, you can reach out at any point. You can email us, you can text us, you can call us, and if you're thinking about moving, make sure, like I said, go online, check us out, and give us a ring at any time, because we're always here. We've got clients calling us almost every day, texting us, and we're never too busy for you guys. So
yeah, our team's ready to help you. You can call or text at 704-239-7449.